we've talked in the past, and we'll get to that episode later. But right now, kind of the burning topic on the media right now is this assassination that happened. I know that you spent time working on domestic terrorism. Your background is a 29-year combined experience from Navy and FBI. I would love to kind of maybe give the audience a quick kind of rundown of what's going on with that situation. Talk about the manifesto and kind of talk about what, from your experience, what does it look like the future kind of holds in this? Because from my position, it almost leads towards almost as if it feels like a Fight Club or a V for Vendetta scene, right?
Yeah.
Almost out of a movie where it's planning almost a movement that might be something that we all need to look out for, especially those high valued CEOs and other corporations. So please just kind of give me the rundown.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, yeah, I just got finished talking about this, and for the last 2 to 3 days after the shooting happened, was 4 days ago, we got to talking about whether it was a fugitive, whether it was an assassin, and then as it got, we were really able to now analyze the video. He was definitely not a professional, and now with his capture and the manifesto that a 3-page manifesto, and they've discovered who he is. He comes from a high net worth Valley family down in Maryland, educated, went to UPenn, so and a valedictorian for his high school. So there's a lot of people questioning whether he's where did this come from. Well, if you go back in history, you go back to Tim McVeigh, Oklahoma City bombing. He bombed the federal building in Oklahoma City because he wanted to start the race war. He wanted to start a race war. He believed that he alone and his actions would begin a race war in the United States. He alone believed that bombing that was completely okay. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, brilliant, very intelligent man, was a professor at Harvard along the same lines. He wanted to exact a change. His ideology wanted to change. So when I look at this attack that happened in New York City, for me, in the beginning, everybody was like, well, this is, he's attacking the health insurance company. No, when we start to really look at it, this is an ideological attack. This is because of who he was. Yes, it appears that the shooter had an existing condition, whether it was getting approved or not approved. But when they've talked and looked at his social media presence, they look at his everything out there, you can see that he was ideologically, he was against that. He was part of that movement. And he believed when you find an individual like this, they believe that they alone can begin the revolution. Their actions alone will begin the movement of others. And that's what's troubling to me right now is you're finding online and in a Twitter, Instagram, lots of people talking about, hey, justify, is this justified homicide? He had it coming, they're greedy. And then you're finding posters getting plastered across New York City right now with the pictures of other CEOs. It doesn't say this
Yes.
person needs to be killed, but those photographs
Yes.
are out there. So it's
Yes.
really
Uh,
troubling.
yeah, I wanted to point out that just reading some of the reports, Brian Thompson, the unfortunate individual who lost his life in this assassination, was actually one of those CEOs who was trying to change the system. He was actually someone who would be in the proper movement. So when people were looking into that, it's like, well, if they were trying to attack the system that was, unfair, he was one of those who was trying to change that. So it would be the wrong person to assassinate in a sense, if that's the idea. But yes, social media has taken this by storm and done some things that I thought were completely unethical and shocked. People are, if you look at the kids following, I went and checked out his social media. It's grown exponentially with women who are hitting on him, men who are just saying, good job, all these things. It's disgusting to see an environment that is glorifying this individual to include when you go to Twitter, it's nonstop. People or excuse me, X, but yeah, you see people glorifying it. You see people saying, "Hey, um, check this out," and they talk about other CEOs. They're highlighting their CEOs across the nation now who are scrubbing their information from the internet so that they can protect their own safety. I find that to be one of the most disturbing things I've seen from this case is how the social networks have kind of jumped on board and almost supported the individual from doing this kind of assassination. Almost the complete disregard of human life, but now
Mhm.
saying, oh, it's them versus us, the wealthy versus the poor or the middle class. But coming from an individual who now there's conspiracy theories what he did or not, but conspiracy theories are just crazy right now. but the individual himself comes from a wealthy background, which makes it even more confusing.
Well, here's the thing is it's like, and I think the background, the wealth, the education, I think that all leads to it. That all feeds into his narrative and belief, and whether, where he deviated from, whatever you consider the mainstream, that's going to be found out. NYPD and FBI are going to go into his entire life history. They're going to look into it all, especially the last 6 months is where he apparently disappeared off the internet, off of, his network of friends. And I think that they're going to find that the last 6 months he was prepping this. There's lots of questions. I mean, how did he know where the CEO was staying? How did he know that he was going to be leaving at that time for a 9 o'clock meeting, but at 6:45 was the assassination? How did he know these things? There's going to be meticulous, intelligent person, had to have put together this timeline of an attack. And that timeline, which is going to go, is not going to be the 10 days. I think they're going to find in those 10 days he was doing his research in New York City. But they're going to go back 6 months. They're going to go back years. They're going to talk to every single person that was affiliated to this guy, not only to solve the investigation, but also from the FBI's perspective to get into the mind of this lone wolf, because that's what he is. He is a lone wolf who conducted, in my opinion, a domestic terrorist attack on US soil because he was ideologically driven and he conducted his attack, whether it's one person or 164 people in Oklahoma City. That, in my opinion, this was a domestic terrorist attack on US soil because he wanted to change something in ideological. He wanted to move an ideological movement forward. And I'm finding since the attack, especially in those first 2 or 3 days, and now more so, I'm getting calls from clients, from CEOs of other firms here in the United States and in South America because of my Latin American connection, that they're asking, hey, we need to up security. Do we need to up security? And I've been providing analysis. I've been providing canines, trained canines, physical bodyguards, vehicle drivers. They're just upping the protection around them because, like I was saying, the lone wolf is the most difficult to defeat because there's no other forces around the person. He was doing this by himself. He was operating. He planned it. He trained it, and preparing the gun, the weapon, the ghost gun, the manifesto, everything, and all the intelligence advance. He was doing this all by himself. So it's very difficult and it's alarming, like you were saying, the rhetoric we're seeing on the internet of justification and infatuation with this young man. And it's really disturbing to see that in the direction that this may be going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm it's going to be historically one of the most I guess publicized situations because of all the things that are happening in between that through social media and mainstream media. What And you're saying that you believe he acted alone, which is even more fascinating because, they're supposedly on his YouTube channel. They removed his YouTube channel now, but there was supposed to be some information dropped sometime today that he put into place before this. I just find this to be very, very organized and structured and it's a little psychotic on how much he planned this. Like I said, the media stuff, the social media, the way people have addressed him, the way people have followed him, it is turning into this scary phenomenon that I think we might have copycats in the near future because what he's kind of set off. And to think that media and social media really are the culprits of creating the buzz behind it. We're giving energy to this. It's the same concept, in my opinion, of active shooters. When we give them a face and we make them famous, it drives other people who feel that type of way to become famous as well.
Yeah, I'm avoiding in my interviews that I do for other news stations, trying to avoid using his name, giving him
Yeah.
any publicity. He wants this. I mean, you saw him today. He had an extradition hearing and he had to be dragged into the jailhouse because he was screaming at the media that this was a travesty. Apparently, I understand now he is contesting extradition to New York. So this is just going to prolong it a little bit. Instead of getting transferred today, it'll be next week. So I think it's going to be a little bit contested, but this is what he wants. This is what he wants. This is what he wants. He wants the attention. He's screaming to the media. So the last thing he's going to do is plead guilty. He's not going to confess to this crime. He's going to get in front of the media. He's going to want a lawyer who's going to scream and make this a court case of him us, and he's going to say us as in humanity versus the insurance companies. He wants this podium, he wants this soapbox to stand up on and just say that this was the beginning and it's just only going to get worse. I'm afraid that it really is going to get worse. And that's why, I'm working with a lot of clients to protect them, whether it be in health insurance or in international trade. Everybody is starting to go, okay, if if somebody who is willing to give their life, and I believe he was willing to give his life because he wrote that 3-page manifesto, if somebody's willing to give their life for something, and these one of the CEOs of one of the most powerful companies and richest companies in the world can get walked up on the sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan, anything is possible. And so there's a real danger about where we're going in this. And this is not like in Oklahoma
Yeah.
City where we didn't have internet and
Yeah.
Unabomber, just internet was just coming out. This is a completely different thing.
Yeah, the muse is intact to allow the free flow of information, and which can cause and create this buzz that you're seeing on the media that is just, or on the social media, that is disgusting to watch. I find it so. I have a background in EP work security. I have a lot of networks and friends in that space. So if there's any assistance you need in that as well, any looking for more support, please let me know. But I found it kind of interesting that the individual was walking alone as well. I think if someone is a high net worth individual, I would put into the budget some kind of personal security. Him walking alone, knowing who he was kind of a surprise to me.
You'd be surprised. Obviously, you've been in the EP world and you've dealt with customers and clients they want the protection. They want, bodyguards. I have been, I've been retired now for about a year and a half, and I've been speaking with a lot of people of that wealth, that level. And you'll be surprised at how many actually say, "No, I'm good. I don't need protection. Either I don't need protection, there's no threats against me, or I can handle myself." Those are two very dangerous things. Now, I'm not saying that, every single person over $500 million, their worth should be having a bodyguard. But in today's world where, we're not in the 90s or the 80s anymore, their threats are coming from every single direction. You have cyber threats, you have physical threats, and basically reach out and touch someone. The amount of research and amount of intel gathering that someone can do just with a laptop, the amount of advanced recce that someone could do just with a laptop and an internet connection is shocking. That's why I always tell my clients, don't post anything about your home. Take your home off of Zillow and, take your home, any intelligence of where they're going to be traveling, what hotels you're going to be staying. I'm really curious to find out how he knew the hotel, how he knew the time, the route, the hotel, everything. Like, of course, the conference was very public, but everything else, I'm really curious to find out how he did it. And I think I'm going to suspect that it's just basically laptop and an internet connection. And with just some little bit of data mining, he was probably able to get where he needs to be. The knowledge that he had, and like I said, I think the fact that if you had someone who was non-intelligent, okay, and uneducated, the shooting wouldn't have gone. I mean, the fact that everything he did, the ghost gun, the shooting, I mean, I knew from the beginning, I saw, that he had the suppressor and that he had the jams. He was using, low pressure ammo. Forget I'm blanking right now.
Subsonic.
Subsonic, thank you. Subsonic ammo, because he was clearing the jam. So he's fired it before, but just the cold calculated effect of the shooting, it was just boom, 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 and then across the street, he had everything planned. But I've said before, I've captured a couple fugitives in my years. You don't catch them on the evidence you find. You catch them on the mistakes they make because they're ahead of you. They're all the way down the road. They're in another state. You're probably not going to find out from the physical evidence. We weren't going to find him. We weren't going to find him from the physical evidence. Maybe you'll find out, you figure out a DNA, you figure out a fingerprint, but he wasn't in CODIS. His fingerprints weren't in the system. So we're not going to get an ID on him. And NYPD admitted it. We had no name on him. And the mistake is pulling the mask down where he was flirting with the girl. That's it. That killed him. And then he
Yes.
made the mistakes. And then again, the mistakes that you make, that mistake was a domino effect to everything else. And the more mistakes he made, the likelier he's going to get caught. So that's all it was. And it just, you know,
I
that
felt I felt I felt not the mask down to flirt, but everything after that was intentional for him to get caught.
I was asked today, is like, why did he sit in a McDonald's? If he was, he knows his face is out there. He was in a full mask. They showed a photograph. He had a beanie cap on and a mask on, and the McDonald's saw him just from the eyes, and that's which was amazing. It was amazing because he didn't have his mask pulled down. He was like this, and he was eating, from here, which is remarkable. Um, but I think my opinion is I think that he was careful days one, two, and three. This guy's not a criminal. This guy was a Ivy League student. So I believe he was on the run, for 4 days now. I believe he was, he kept careful for their days one and two. But you start to get tired. You start
Yeah.
to get tired, and then I think he was exhausted, exhausted, exhausted. He was probably just sitting there like, ah, so fucking tired. I'm stunned that he was only in Pennsylvania. I figured he'd been in Mexico, Canada, California by day two, but he was in 100 miles away. It was completely. It
I
shows you
wish
how.
more. Yeah. I
I was
wish
gonna say,
more high corporate, financially wealthy businesses just use security more often. It's crazy to me how it's always an afterthought. And it's like, guys,
I
if
have
you
a
make that
client.
money, insurance alone should support that.
I have a client that's worth 9 billion. Doesn't want a bodyguard. Barely we can talk to him into getting an alarm system for his house and cameras. $9 billion.
I don't understand it. It doesn't hurt. It don't hurt. You're just putting someone on the payroll. Like who cares? And pick someone that you actually like to have a conversation with. Put them there.